up, Raider Nation? Your buddy Murf back once again for an RFR conversation live here in Murf's Fan Cave. And so thankful to welcome today a fellow content creator, the guy that is the host of the Raider Cody podcast. You can find him on Twitter at Raider Cody. You can find him at RaiderCody.com. You can find him at RaidersBeat.com. And you can find him on YouTube.com/Raider Cody, host of the wildly popular Raider Cody podcast. What's up, Cody?
Murf, what's going on, man? Feels good to jump on some airwaves. You got some miles on these airwaves. I'm excited. There's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff that you guys have talked about over the years. Covered a lot of ground. You have so many shows going on. I'm absolutely honored to be traveling these things right now.
Right on, man. Well, appreciate you being here and joining us here, man. And, you and I've gotten a chance to get to know each other off the air. Of course, I was a guest on your show not long ago, but you and I have gotten to be good friends away from podcasting. And first and foremost, appreciate your friendship. And I'm so glad that, considering all the silliness that can happen on social media, the fact that, you know what I mean, we can get together and talk it out and sharing content, man, as a result is pretty cool.
Yeah. And right now, it's kind of a little bit of a dead time in the football world. So it's good to be able to, kind of, I guess, get our mind off of everything that's going on right now, talk about some good Raiders football, and create content for those Raider fans. Because right now, we're normally starving for every ounce, every clip, every little thing of our new rookies out there. I mean, it doesn't matter. It could be a rookie defensive end going through drills, and we want to see every 2-3 second clip of these guys going, and we don't get that. So right now, these listeners, we're pretty much all they got right now.
Well, we'll apologize in advance for that then.
You're left with us.
You're stuck with us, yeah. But, it's funny you mentioned that, because earlier today I was just dabbling around on social media and I came across, I think it might have been an Instagram video of shots of Max Crosby working out on the beach in the sand, like cutting through, like doing like 3-cone, 4-cone drills and stuff. And I was like, oh man, this is awesome. Like, I never thought, you know what I mean? Like, it's that time of year, man. We get excited about guys working out in their shorts on the beach.
Yeah, I've watched it like 10 times. I get excited every time, too.
I actually dug that video because I liked watching him get excited about, because he had guys, kind of shadowing him, defending him, and he's cutting these guys and, breaking ankles on the beach, man, and he's giving them heck for it, as he's doing it. You know what I mean? The crap talking that's already going on, man. I dig it.
Yeah, and he looks agile, just based off those clips. He's gone. We talked about it a little bit, just through his progress last year during the football season, all the weight that he put on. And I'm sure you've even, kind of picked up on it. He's a late bloomer whenever it comes to his body style, putting on weight, putting on the pounds. Last year, he kind of just relied on his football knowledge. I mean, what he can do to get to the passer had to be as creative as possible because he had a physical disadvantage his rookie year. So, man, all this training, all the, the weight that he's going to put on, he's finally going to be, in my opinion, an NFL defensive end this year. And, man, sky's the limit. Yeah, defensive rookie, or should I say defensive player of the year now?
Oh, that'd be sweet, dude. He reminds me of Jared Allen, right? Just that kind of that body type and everything. And you could tell he's putting on the size, man, and he's growing out his beard and everything. I'm right on. This dude's going to be a beast, man. I love it. But hey, before we get into Raider stuff, let's talk about you, man. So you've been doing this for a hot minute now. You've been in this podcast game. Now you're doing the YouTube thing. And man, you're killing it, Cody. And you've got a brand new studio built. Tell us about that.
Oh man, this was something that I've kind of had in the back of my head for 4 to 5 months. Starting this thing off, I even kind of mentioned it to you at the beginning of the show. I first started podcasting on my lunch breaks in my truck in the Burger King parking lot. I just pulled up my laptop, had this little toner, $15 Amazon mic, and just started going after it. And then, because I didn't really know where this whole thing was going to go, I just thought I'd, lay down some podcasts. If people listen, cool. If not, whatever. And as it kind of grew, I moved. I took a corner of my garage, cleared it out, built a table in there, kind of sealed it off to where I wasn't sounding like I was in a tunnel. Went in there and kind of just made that my little spot, and it was fun. And then I'd go at night because I live in Central Valley, California, and it was hot as heck at times. It gets up to, just last week we're up to 109, 110, and it's just blazing hot. You don't want to be in that garage when it's 109 degrees, right? It is just blazing hot. So finally, I put a little window unit in there during the draft this year to kind of get me by. And I just told myself, I'm like, hey, of course, we just kind of had, that pandemic kind of spike. Of course, football's kind of put on pause. I feel like I got a window here of a couple months maybe to just tear down my entire garage, I just stripped it down, took everything out, built a big metal shop. And this is, something I had plans for in the get-go, just moving into my house. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to dedicate a spot, 10 by 10. I'm going to build a studio. And as soon as they had this metal shop up, Murf, they came on a Saturday and they build these things in a day. They had it done at 3. I had 4 walls framed by myself before it was dark. So I just was going after this.
I love it.
I got this window. We're going for it. Got it done. Got the foam up. Got the lights. I'm finally, hopefully this weekend. What's today? Today's Friday. So tomorrow I'll be going live on my YouTube channel for the first time with the studio in the background. And I'm excited. It just feels good to, come from hanging out in the Burger King parking lot, trying to run off the landscapers because they're going by with leaf blowers and weed eaters. I'm like, come on, guys! Can't you see I'm trying to do a freaking podcast here? But yeah, it feels good to finally kind of have some, some comfort. Kind of like you, like yourself. It feels good to have that spot going there and you vibe out, right? I'm sitting here staring at a gigantic stitched Raider Nation flag. I got a light up Raider sign next to me, and you just feel so plugged in and ready and just want to talk football. It's just exciting.
Absolutely, man. That's, when I started podcasting with my cousin Sonny, and we started off kind of same thing. We were doing it with our phones. We were on Blog Talk Radio. And then when I moved into this place 7 years ago, I just had all my Raider stuff hanging up around, and so I just started podcasting from my desk, and then it just eventually built a studio up and around it. And, but I'm totally with you, man. It feels good to be in that. Cause then when you go into your space, when you go into your studio, it's go time, man. It's time to talk about the Raiders, and you're just fired up because that's the atmosphere that you've built up in there, and it looks great, and you sound great. So much props to you, man, on a job well done for that. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, man, a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of things to try and block out the noise. Got the AC unit put in. Everything. I mean, everything. It's better than I pictured, so I'm extremely happy, and it's good. I mean, it's opened up to me, I think, a lot more opportunity to put out content in a less stressful manner. So I'm excited.
Right on, man. Well, hey, I wanted to ask you about how you got your start. Now, you just kind of touched on it. You started off podcasting in the Burger King parking lot, but what was the genesis behind that before you flip on the mic for the first time? What led you to want to create content for Raider Nation?
Well, I was an obnoxious Raider fan on Twitter, most of us. I think it's kind of a common theme for most of us. And I just ranted and ranted and ranted and ranted. And of course, they give you character limits. And finally, I had maybe 2 or 3 people in a week. They say, hey, you should start a podcast. I'm like, I've never even listened to a podcast. I didn't even know what it was. I found the podcast app on my phone, listened to a couple. One of the first ones was the Pillaging podcast. I couldn't tell. I came across yours was always one of those, cornerstone podcasts, Raider Nation podcast with Greg, things like that. I came across a few of those, listened to a couple. I'm like, sure, let's try it. I can't, have that production, but, we'll talk about it. And I just took it day by day, and little did I know. I mean, I do a lot of things. I shouldn't say I have a lot of hobbies, but I like to do a few different things. I've built a motorcycle. I do a lot of different things around the house. I work on vehicles with my dad, do different hobbies and projects, and ride quads, bicycles, all this stuff. Little did I know that I'd take this little podcasting project and get just as or more than ever obsessed with it. And every episode found myself looking to improve this. I'd go to listen to my episode. Okay, I could do better on this, or I could do better on that. Let's do that. Or, man, I'd love to talk to so-and-so. I guess I've kind of, my niche, I guess I should say, Scott Winter always tells me my niche is being the positive guy, being the fan, being the positive guy. And although I agree with him, I'd say my podcast niche too is also trying to find good fans and big media heads out there maybe, or even players to come on my show and talk to. And it's just kind of been like this climbing the ladder and finding who's the best person I can talk to, and just trying to grow a reputation and just be a guy that whenever you flip on your headphones and you listen to me talk, hopefully I can inspire you to be a more passionate fan. No matter what your views are, I just want to grow Raider Nation's passion for their football team. And I feel like I've done that. So I think that's kind of where this podcast has been built, and why I started it was to just hopefully leave an impact on our fan base in a passionate way.
That's awesome, man. We've said for a minute now, the whole idea of what a true fan is or a real fan is, that kind of stuff gets thrown out there. And to us, there is no such thing. The only thing that defines your fandom is the passion in which you approach it. And so I applaud you for that statement, because that's the truth. It doesn't matter how long you've been a fan for, what you do with your fandom, like how passionate are you about this football team? And that's all I need to know. And if you're passionate about the Raiders, then you're, you know what I mean? You're a real fan or a true fan or whatever in my book. So I can appreciate that. So speaking of fandom, so where did your fandom come from? Is it a family thing? Like, where does your Raider fandom start?
Totally from my dad. All credit to Mr. Bill. A lot of people that have been to the tailgates have probably met my dad, because I built a tailgate barbecue, and my dad comes. I get all these tri-tips, and I tell him, I take him to his house, and I say, marinate him, do your thing. He has his own recipe, and it's a simple like recipe what he throws to these things. Takes him out there, and he throws together tri-tips. So everybody that knows my dad knows the tri-tips, and he's been he was an LA Raider fan originally, right? All LA teams, LA Dodgers, LA Lakers, and of course the LA Raiders at the time. Followed him to Oakland, no problem. I've kind of just carried on that same thing. So it's all come from him. I mean, even at his house, he's got a Raider room. It kind of like you, it's a spare bedroom, extra bedroom. He just kind of Raidered the thing out. And anytime there's an event, if there's something going on around us or anything, I mean, he's always willing to go. Like if I was to tell him right now, like, hey, home opener, let's go. He's going to say, okay, let's go. Or, hey, let's go to the Bucks game this year. Okay, let's go to the Bucks game. Like, he's just all for it. But like, he's like your casual fan, right? He'll listen to this. And whenever we start getting into players and conversations and things like that, everything he hears, he's going to be learning, because he doesn't dig into that himself. He's a casual fan that goes to the game. He knows his main players. He knows Josh Jacobs, Max Crosby, Derek Carr. He knows, the jerseys that are going to be selling at Raider Image. And then everything from there out, man, he's just cheering for everybody in the silver and black. And that's kind of where I've always tried to root myself, even though me and you might be able to list off every single player on the roster, maybe the colleges they went to, their height, their weight, all this different stuff. I've always tried to just remind myself to be like my dad and just enjoy all the players in the silver and black for what they bring to the table.
Right on, man. Well, we won't have any Rico Gafford quizzes for your dad pending or anything. So well, that's awesome, man. It's such a family thing. And that's one of the beautiful things about Raider Nation, man, is that it really is a family. And I know that there's a lot of sports fandom legacies that get passed on generation to generation, but there's a constant theme, whether it's a dad or an uncle or a mom or what, like these things get passed down generationally through Raider Nation. It's pretty awesome. So Cody, so as I mentioned at the top of the show, you've had, a ton of success to your podcast. You've done an awesome job, not only, assembling a quality show, but you've got, as you mentioned, a lot of great guests. So out of all those interviews that you've done, from media people to players and all that stuff, who's been your favorite? Which one that stands out to you?
Oh man, that's a good question. And for one, before I even answer the question, I appreciate all your kind words, because it's crazy to sit here and feel like I've built something, kind of semi-successful that's like getting recognized. It's amazing, because there's a lot of work, there's a lot of work that gets put into this thing off the record, like what you don't see on the airwaves. Like you've, kind of vocally a little bit finally with Will Compton, some of the listeners like know what it takes to get these guys on. You pick and pry, and you gotta do what you can, for the little guy, to get a plate to eat. You know what I mean? Like you want something good out there for the listeners. I'd say my favorite conversations so far, and I don't want Raider Nation to kick me for this, but some of the content creators that I've had, one in particular, actually, last year we had a matchup with the Vikings, and on my network Blue Wire, I spoke with, it's the Bleeding Purple podcast. His name's Adam Patrick. I spoke with him, and he was a great guy, because he loves his Minnesota Vikings. And for me, I kind of feel bad, because, we beat the brakes off him in that Super Bowl. So it's one of those things, it was a nice conversation with a nice, passionate content creator that wasn't with the Raiders. I also really enjoyed my conversation with you, because that was another guy where I could sit down.
Thanks,
and we can just go, man. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think I really had a template for our conversation. I had, those few questions I want to get through and I want to ask you, but we could just ramble about the Raiders. And I'd say, if you're trying to ask anybody that's, I guess you can call them high profile guests, I had my most recent conversation with both the Carr brothers, Darren and David. And it wasn't necessarily that, I don't know, that they gave me like the most like nuggets or whatever. They both like went out of their way, because we know, talking to guests, if you call them on a cell phone, there's like a lag for me. There's a slight gap between what they're hearing and what I'm hearing from them. So there's always going to be that little 1 second gap, and it's hard to continue like a good, solid, fluent conversation with them. They went out of their way, both David and Darren, they downloaded Skype on their Xboxes and set up their headsets, created accounts, just to be able to have a good sounding podcast on my show. So I was pretty like honored for them to like be able to go through, like they're asking their kids like how to set it up, of course, and get everything set up and on the show and talking. And that was great because it was able to sit down. It was comfortable. They're sitting on their couches with their headset on and just talking football. And it just felt like a very casual, comfortable conversation with two very knowledgeable guys. So I like that a lot.
That's very cool, man. That's awesome that, because a lot of times as just fan creators like we are, you know what I mean? Like whoever these, like you said, high profile, guests, they could take us in a lot of different ways. So to know that those guys took it serious enough to go out of their way to make sure that they were providing, good sounding content for you and your show. Like that's a lot of respect right there, man. That's legit.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed that. I mean, I couldn't tell you, I can't even tell you I've ever had one regret or any, maybe I shouldn't have talked to him that long. Every guest I've had, every minute of audio I've recorded with all my guests has been enjoyable. It's been a ride. Like I said, it's kind of like you're kind of climbing a ladder whenever you're building a podcast and you're talking to these guests. I'm talking to a podcast for RaidersBeat.com, and he says, it's like a business at that point. You're building your clientele. Like that's kind of what you're trying to do. And you're trying to get good, reputable people on there to represent you. And I always it kind of builds responsibility for me because if I have them on my show from there on out, I feel like I represent them. If I had Derek or Amy Trask, or I've had Ian Rappaport, I've had those guys on my show. I feel like from there on out, I'm going to keep building my brand to represent them and, something that they contributed to.
Absolutely. It's important, man, because, those folks are putting their reputations out there as well by trusting you to go and join you on something like that. So you're right. You what?
Just some Raider fan, man. You know what I mean? It's like, well, I guess I'll join the show. I don't know where this is going to go, but
absolutely. But it's, it's a lot, you know what I mean? That those folks are willing to take that risk, man. And it's, cause they got a lot, like this is their living. And you do this as a hobby, this isn't your sole source of income. You're a successful businessman in the real world. And so, for you to do this as a hobby, and for those folks that do this for a living to put their, livelihood, and add vulnerability to it for a fan created show, like that's a lot, man. That's definitely a lot. So, and so again, many props to you for the amount of quality guests you've gotten. Cause And this is a little inside baseball for the listening audience, but it's not easy. It's not easy to schedule guests, and especially when you don't have, an NFL credential or a whatever else to back you up, or a huge media entity behind you or whatever. When it's just you, it's a lot to go out there and get that kind of attention. And having traveled that road myself, not as frequently nearly as you have, and not to the same success either. I understand that difficulty behind it. And I hope the listening audience does too, and has an appreciation for the work that you're putting in, because it's not easy. It's not easy to go out and get Ian Rappaport or Amy Trask or even Will frickin' Compton. You know what I mean? It's not easy to get these folks on your show. And you've done very, very well at that. So that's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I could probably simply add up maybe 30 minutes to an hour of effort put into every guest that I get. That's not counting preparation, just for a 15 to 20 minute conversation. So there's a lot that goes into it to make sure that 15 to 20 minutes, everything is ready.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the Raiders. So let's jump into 2020 season, man. And I'm like you, I've got a handful of things that I have just prompts, but I don't have a list of questions because you and I can just chop it up about the team. But what are your expectations, realistic, fan-wise? What's your heart tell you? What's your head tell you? What do you think we're looking at here for this initial season or inaugural season in Vegas?
It's hard when you say expectations. It's hard for me to dial in how I should feel, because I guess my expectations now are just I feel like we've not waited long enough. But after 2016, and we had that small breakdown and rebuild. Well, I shouldn't say really small breakdown, because we only have 3 guys left from that team or whatever it is. Yeah. So it's been a pretty big rebuild. But with all this building up steam now, third year of John Gruden, this is kind of where originally, right? I mean, we got excited last year. and it might have been a little premature. We got excited last year, but whenever John Gruden signed, we told ourselves, right, 10 years with John. He's going to kind of break this thing down, get the players in that he wants. We kind of expected third year, fourth year is where we should be contenders, where we should be happy. We shouldn't sign a coach. We shouldn't have to sign a coach for 10 years to take over a team and wait till year 6 or 7 to start winning. Like it's just too much. So at year 3, with Derek Carr at the point where he should be, whether you're happy with him or not right now, he pretty much should be in his prime. Like this is where, if we're going to get something out of Derek Carr, we're going to get it out of him this year. We're adding weapons. We have a new stadium. Like, I mean, there's so much hype. Like, I don't even think the players are going to understand what that's going to do to them on even game day. Nothing against Oakland at all. Nothing against Oakland at all, because we love that Coliseum. And of course they loved all the vibes, because that's going to be unmatched. But whenever you go to Vegas and there's that brand new, fresh, shiny stadium, it's going to kind of feel like, look, hey, we're in the freaking, and this is the NFL. Like we're in professional football now. You kind of get that like Jerry's World feel to it. Yeah. It's just going to be a very high production or high produced NFL game day experience. Nothing that, I mean, just like the Al Davis torch. I saw that sucker lit up yesterday from a close view, and it's just like, whoa. I'm going to see that thing in person, and I'm not going to know what to do with myself whenever we get there. I feel like it's going to be the same thing with the fans. You get this great stadium around you on a nice field, no dirt, right? You're going to have this nice field under your feet. And I mean, just kind of a city that's ready to hopefully take over the NFL as a whole. And I think we can, 10 plus wins, 10 wins. That's my expectations. Get in the playoffs. My expectation is probably to win a playoff game. I think that's from there on out, depending on how good we are, I'll be able to tell you mid-season, we can adjust our expectations. But right now, my expectation is just win a playoff game. And if we're better than that, awesome. But maybe we could be that team that's like, hopefully we can win this playoff game, or hopefully we can get in the playoffs. I mean, hopefully that's not the case, because that's us last year. We want to step forward. I want to win a playoff game. That's my expectation.
Absolutely. Does the Raiders winning a playoff game with Derek Carr at the helm relieve all of the pressure that's on him, right? Not relieve the pressure, because there's always going to be pressure, but the fandom outcry, the division in fandom at times, the criticism, or at least the overt criticism, does that evaporate if the Raiders win a playoff game?
I think it depends on how we win, right? You have to be able to evaluate like how he's doing. Like if we're out there winning playoff games, like the Titans, you don't take like just because they won, it's okay. But if they have a bad season, I mean, Tannehill's by no means off the hook because of his playoff game there, right? Because Derrick Henry and the rest of that offense and the defense kind of carried the team. So if they won a playoff game, and Derrick was just, not really playing up to par like we expect him to, then that's one thing. But I mean, if he goes out there with the weapons that he has, and we can see that we're dominant, I shouldn't say dominant, but very competitive. Even if we were to lose a game, if we're lose competitively, that was our issue last year. The record wasn't that bad, but the point differential was ugly. Yeah. So our losses were ugly. There was probably 4 games where we did not look competitive at all.
The Jets, that was the worst one. That was the first one. It was like, whoa, what the hell? I thought we were good again. We won 3 in a row, and then all of a sudden we go into freaking New York and get molly whooped. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's one thing, they talk about 2016, a lot of those games could have gone different directions, but pretty much every game that season was close. So that's okay if you just win the close games. You don't have to blow teams out. It doesn't always work like that. The way our team's designed, we're not quite like the Kansas City Chiefs. We don't take the top off the defense when we're up by 10 points or 14 points. You know what I mean? We go conservative. We push the ball. We control the tempo. And we just play some good old-fashioned football to, hopefully just control the pace of the game and not let it get out of hand. So hopefully things go to plan. Man, Murf, it makes me nervous, but I'm excited in the same breath, because I think we finally have the tools to go out there and be that competitive team that doesn't lose that edge. And man, it's just so weird. Our third quarters, if we can just make adjustments coming out of half. We were probably the worst team in football after the half last year. If after halftime coming out, we played bad those first 3 or 4 drives on each side of the ball, really. So if we can change that and we can find a way to punch that ball into the end zone and score, kicking didn't help us, right? We're looking at points per game, putting everything on the offense, but in the same breath, We had a kicker in the second half of the season that really struggled that second half of the season. Like he was kicking, I think maybe like 60% or something absurd that wasn't going to help us at all.
And nothing like past like 40 or something, right? Like he couldn't hit anything. I forget what the yardage marker was, but there was a certain distance where anything past that and he was over.
Yeah, and that's not going to help our scoring whatsoever. And that's not going to help I think that even goes down really as kind of red zone scoring as well. It just all depends. Depends on what we can do. And hopefully these added weapons like that, Brian Edwards coming in, Darren Waller to get a little bit more comfortable. And you see even guys like Alec Ingold can be a little X factor. You see Lynn Bowden Jr. We have guys that are going to come in and be able to find the end zone, I feel like, because, we have the tools to move the ball and we proved it. We were top 5 in yards per drive. We were top 5 in drive success rate, but we were bottom 5 in opportunities. And of course, pretty much almost bottom or 19th or whatever in scoring. So we have the tools to do it. Now it's just putting the points on the board and actually winning the football game. So I think that takes the hook off of Derek Carr if we can do all those things, because he had all the pieces last year to do it. He was highly efficient. He had all the things going for him. Now it's just win.
Just win.
Right? That's what it comes down to.
Well, there's a case to be made for, like, when you look at Derek in 2016 and in terms of the injury and the mental, healing that needed to occur after a major injury or a couple of them, because everybody forgets about his pinky when he broke his back, right? Like he had, you know what I mean? And then the ankle, and like the thing started to stack up on him a little bit, and it takes a minute to come back from that. But also, like, Derek Carr was in the MVP conversation in 2016 for a majority of it. And that's what it was taking for the Raiders to win. Because and I know we look back on that year fondly, but our defense wasn't great. It wasn't like we were going to go into the playoffs and freaking roll through it, even with Derek Carr, because our defense was questionable. Now I feel like we're getting to a point where it doesn't all squarely fall on Derek's shoulders. It never fell squarely on Jim Plunkett's shoulders or Kenny Stabler's shoulders either, and we still won Super Bowls. We won it with defense. We won it with a running game. I mean, when you have Marcus Allen and that defense, it's not hard to be Jim Plunkett. And so I'm hoping that with Josh Jacobs and now a completely revamped defense, what all in like the optics are, defense is going to be badass. Defense is going to be much improved off of what it was. And I mean, we've got some dogs coming in on defense, man. And I'm so fired up for that. And, when you think about like creating turnovers and scoring points and like all that stuff helps your offense. So if you have all of that, and we know he's going to be protected, we know he's going to have a running game. Now he's got plenty of targets. Like, it doesn't fall squarely on him. He doesn't have to go out there and make all, other 10 guys on the field great, or even all other 21 guys on the field great. He's just got to go out there and, like, you hate to use a Patriots term, but do his job. Go out there, have a 250-yard game, throw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and we'll win a football game. Like, that's all he's got to do, because Jacobs will take care of the rest and the defense will take care of the rest, Yeah.
That's exactly what we need.
So, okay. So you mentioned you're going to see the torch in real life here. So tell me about your season plans, man. What do you got planned for the upcoming season?
Well, season plans are just kind of like all over the place. Obviously, we've talked a little bit. I'm hoping, the home opener is going to be finally, I guess, our welcome party to Las Vegas. I was hoping that's going to be the draft. Obviously that didn't happen. So the home opener against the Saints, obviously a lot of players on the team have a little additional inspiration with events this week from the Saints quarterback. So that's going to be interesting to see how our defense comes out and plays.
Somebody's going to get a roughing the passer. I'm just saying.
Oh, somebody. Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, we'd get that anyways.
We get that anyways, yeah. Hey, and I'm just saying, if you're going to do it, be unabashed. Turn that corner and just blow him up. If you're going to get a flag anyways, we don't want to kill the guy, but if you're going to hit him. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. If you're going to get a flag, at least make an impact. That's what, the Raiders of the old days would do.
Al Davis, man, and quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard. You know what I mean?
Exactly. But I'd say plans for the season, Stage Door Casino in Las Vegas, as of now, is pretty much going to be the go-to spot for me. And I've talked to you a couple times about this whole thing. I want to do a couple live broadcasts in Vegas, whether it's the day before, whether it's the night after or of the game. As soon as the game's over, go there, do a show, do something, and get together a few guys. I'm sure my guy Kenny King is going to be down there with me just about every time I'm down there. And if you make it down there to a game too, Murf, of course, we plan on teaming up and doing a show together.
I'll be there, the home opener, buddy. I will be there.
There we go.
I got my hotel booked and my flights booked, and I don't have any game tickets yet, but I'll be in Vegas for sure.
Oh, so okay. So this is how it's going to work. You're just going to surprise me like this on air. Okay. Last time we talked, you didn't know. So new plan. You will hear me and Murf on the airwaves, and my guy King will be in there too. And it's gonna be nuts, man. I'm sure at some point we'll have some other people mixing in. Stage Door Casino. I'm gonna be talking to him actually tomorrow night on my YouTube channel. John from Stage Door. They're just the ultimate Raider bar. I mean, just the absolute ultimate Raider bar. And it's gonna be, I don't want to say like Ricky's, because they're not necessarily trying to do that, but they're just trying to bring their own I don't know, kind of comfortable feel to Raider Nation going to Vegas. Because let's be honest, as Raider fans, we're used to going to game days at the Coliseum, right? We're used to going to these things and tailgating, having a wild time, having no restrictions, right? Like there's no one there telling us to be quiet or, don't yell. Like if I can't, get off like if I can't belch out at Raiders, like I'm going to lose my mind.
Right.
So
right.
Walking into MGM or Circus, or you're walking into the Sands, like you're not going to know what to do with yourself because it's going to be so just out of sorts. Like you're going to be, I don't know, out of your comfort level, I guess a little bit. It's a little too high class for us Raider Nation fans. So Stage Door Casino, I think, is building that atmosphere to be able to make that the before, the after kind of spot, day of. I think they have parties that are being planned the night before, things like that. And he's kind of just opened it up to me to where, hey, man, if you want to come down here and do a show anytime you want, go for it. So I'm like, why not, take advantage of a really cool spot that hopefully blows up and be ready for that. Man, I don't even know what the vibe's going to be like in Allegiant. It's going to be nuts. I'm going to like lose my mind. Probably the first trip there, I'm not even going to be able to take it all in. That first time, you're just going to kind of just like not even understand where you're at or why you're here, why it's so amazing and why everything's so perfect and immaculate, why each and every bolt is still shiny and there's no thing of rust and there's not water dripping on my head. Like you're not going to know what really to do with yourself. So it's going to take that second trip for us to get there. I'm hoping to get to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers primetime game because screw Tom Brady forever. I don't really care what team he's on. I hope to get to that game and beat the brakes off of Tom and Gronk and all those Tampa Bay Buccaneers down there. And that's why I think we're all really finally be able to settle into our new stadium in Las Vegas. So hopefully by the end of the year, it feels like home again. And it's gonna be awesome.
It's gonna be weird. It's gonna be weird peeing in a urinal and not in a big giant trough with 3 foot of weed smoke over your head. You know what I mean? Like it's gonna be a very interesting environment, man. Where you're like everything's gonna be so. I'm with you. It's gonna be like jarring almost because for so many of us, like we went to literally been going to the Coliseums our whole life. And I've told this story numerous times. I mean, my first trip to the Coliseum, I was in utero. My mom went to the World Series in '72 and she was pregnant with me. It was literally like my oldest of memories were at the Oakland Coliseum. So it's so familiar, to go now to that same team, to be in that environment where it's like you said, like Jerry World and everything's glitzy and it's going to be jarring. It's going to be an adjustment period for sure. I'm thankful for it. Of course, we all wish it would have been somewhere in California, preferably in the Bay Area. But if not there and it wasn't going to happen, then why not Vegas? So I think it's going to be awesome, man. And it's going to take a little bit of adjusting. But I'm really encouraged also to hear about Stage Door, and I'm sure a lot of other Raider fans are too. Like that's going to be cool because that's really at our core. What are we? It's kind of gritty, right? It's it's a little wild. It's a little rambunctious. You know what I mean? So a place like that's still going to hold down that vibe. We're going to have a lot of fun. Like that's our wheelhouse, right? So to kind of reconnect with that before we go marching into Allegiant, man, that's going to be awesome. That's going to be awesome.
I'm not really sure if I should be wearing like a button-up shirt and a tie underneath my jersey. Like maybe let it kind of pop through a little bit just so I can feel like a little upper class for this new stadium. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do.
I know, right? Oh man, man, wear the old stuff. Yeah, wear the old Raider hat that's got sweat stains on it and stuff. Just go gritty. Just go gritty. Hey, well, Cody, I want to be sensitive of your time. I know you took some time out of the middle of your workday and appreciate you joining me here for this RFR conversation. I got one more set of questions to ask you about before we get to that, though. Yeah. Raider Nation, support what this man does. You can find him on Twitter at Raider Cody, RaiderCody.com, RaidersBeat.com, and then also his YouTube channel. I would say his new YouTube channel, but it's relatively new out of all of his projects, and that's at YouTube.com/Raider Cody. All right, so here's the last set of questions. We used to do the Mount Rushmore question, and then I decided to kind of go off with a new thing, right? So do you remember the show Inside the Actor's Studio? Did you ever see that show?
I don't think so.
Okay,
no.
So they would have like, Steve Martin, Tom Hanks, whatever, all these like famous, Denzel Washington, you name it, all the biggest actors and actresses on the planet. And they would go through this questionnaire, and it was like this questionnaire of just kind of like almost like a personality questionnaire based around their profession, which is acting. All right, well, I modified it, so it's going to be a questionnaire based around your personality as a Raider fan. Okay, you ready? It's like 7 questions. Okay, you ready?
Do it.
All right, Raider Cody, what is your favorite Raiders phrase?
Oh, just win, baby. It almost just slips off the tongue every time I think about it. It has to be. Yeah, just win, baby. All the other ones I kind of have to force myself.
What Raider play excites you?
Ooh. Recent years?
Any of them.
Like a specific player? Or
like a play. Could be one of the named ones. Could be Derek Carr hitting Crabtree in the front corner of the end zone. Could be like what play did you like just fully, like even now, like you get excited thinking about it?
Man, I'm going to say, go a little off, but the Terrell Pryor was like the 92-yard run, whatever that was, against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
That was one that was exciting because for me, I had 2 players kind of like in that window that I really wanted to come up and play. And one was Terrell Pryor. I really wanted him to be the Raiders quarterback. I remember being in the stands of the Coliseum, just cheering for him to get out there on the field, booing the starting quarterback, which was a popular thing for, 10, 12 years, and getting the next guy out there to see what he can do. And I would say that Michael Crabtree Saints touchdown, or 2-point conversion, the blackjack thing where we felt we were back at home. Like that was exciting. That was like the Raiders are back statement game. And I'd say that was the play.
All right. Right on. Those are great ones. All right. What's the worst one?
Ooh. I'll give you a basket of plays to pick out of. Just choose a Kansas City offense out there on 3rd and 14. And there's probably like a good handful of plays that every single one of them make me want to throw up in my mouth right now. That's the last 3 years you've witnessed it. Every time we stop that offense and we get them in a do or die 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15, freaking make a play. I'd say, I think that's it. Because that's
or even worse when there's a flag on it. Like can they convert on a freaking on a PI or something?
You're right. Probably my. Okay, if I do one specific play, it'd be last year, Alec Ingold's touchdown against the Denver Broncos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's recent. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that one sucked. All right, who's the greatest Raiders player?
Of all time or right now?
All time.
Ooh, Raiders? Okay. I'd say I got to go Tim Brown.
Nice.
For me, I think I'm gonna go Tim Brown as the greatest Raider of all time. Charles Woods is my favorite player of all time, but of course he dedicated the good part of his career to the Green Bay Packers. Not necessarily his fault. He chose to come back and be a Raider, so I'll put him right there with him. But yeah, I'm going Tim Brown.
I love that because I could see your Tim Brown jersey on full display behind you, and then Woodson's just a little piece underneath there. Because there's 7 years of his career that was in green and yellow. So I
I got the Tim Brown, Charles Woodson. I have Howie Long back there, and shout out to the young buck to get thrown up here with the greats. But I have Josh Jacobs up there as well. So
nice, dig it, man, dig it. All right, who's the Raiders' worst player, Cody?
Ooh, Antonio. No, he wasn't a Raider.
He wasn't a Raider.
Yeah. He wasn't a Raider. I'm going to say worst. I feel bad because I don't want to call it like, a crappy player. I'm going to say, it's pretty much a toss-up between Randy Moss and Warren Sapp. I mean, it's hard because I'd say Randy Moss, because I mean, Warren Sapp at times, like showed flashes. It was just like a very just bitter, I felt like, relationship. So it just didn't work out. Kind of the same with Randy, but Randy just never produced. So I'm going to go probably Randy Moss, worst Raider of all time, just because he doesn't want to be one too.
That's it right there. And it's not about like calling somebody out that's trying to be their best and just didn't find success. But these guys, those two in particular you named, and a lot of others, they didn't even want to be there. Like they didn't even want to be there. So they gave zero effort to the team. And so absolutely, I'm with you. Okay. I got two more for you. All right.
Okay.
What Raider profession, anything that has to do either within the organization, could be a media job around the organization, what Raider profession would you love to have?
I mean, definitely they'll probably take over the podcast, right?
Eddie Pascal, pack your bags.
Get out of here, Eddie. Gone. I chose your job.
There you go. Cody's coming for you, Eddie. All right. Last one. So Cody, you died, right? You lived your whole life as a Raider fan. You had a long, long life. You're 99 years old. You pass on, you pass through the pearly gates, you go past St. Peter, and who's standing on the other side? The Maverick himself. What do you want Al Davis to say to you?
What I want him to say to me
What would you like to hear?
Man, there's a lot to that, because I'd love him to say, something along the lines like, thanks for being a part of Raider Nation, or thanks for being a Raider. Thanks for, something like that. Welcome, brother. Something, that's what, just like something, just what you do at a tailgate. That's how I picture like an Al Davis conversation. But if I had to bump into him, I think I would just ask him something along the lines of, why did you do things the way you did? Why did you go along and not care what anyone thought, right? Because he didn't. And he went against social injustices. He went against everything. I mean, he battled the NFL. He battled everybody. And I would just want to know, because he just did it. And we never got an explanation of why. He always just did things. He didn't care who he pissed off. He just ran the organization. And he did a lot of great things. A lot of people get mad with the tail end of his ownership, just because it was getting to that point. And that's, unfortunately, that's all, really the only years that I saw out of Al Davis. But I've done a lot of research into him, and there's just so many things. And I just saw the way he carried himself at press conferences. And I would just want to know, like, what makes him tick? What makes him tick? And it kind of goes down to, like, that's how you try and dig into football players that way. And this is the guy that, if you think of the greatest Raider of all time, if he's not a player, it's Al Davis. And I would just want to know why he did those things, and if it even did anything for him, or if it's just one of those things like it just felt right and he just did it. Because at the end of the day, that's all of us, just as human beings. That's what we strive to do, and we want to do what's right, and we want to leave an impact. And if it pisses some people off, maybe they're the right people to piss off in the first place. And I felt like he accomplished that. So, yeah, I want him to say good job, and then I want to ask him, why, hey man, why are you a dick sometimes? Or why does it pay off so much?
Love it, man. Great answer, Cody. Great answer. Yeah, I just picture Al with that, with his rings on, like doing that fist, that point and that fist, that you would see him do from the sidelines. Like I could just picture that, man. So yeah, right on, man. That's great, Cody. Good stuff. Well, hey, anything you want to leave Raider Nation with before we let you get back to your day here?
Man, I want to leave Raider Nation with how passionate this is. I want to say, like, thank you, but I want to say, like, how proud I am to be a part of this fan base, that even through these trying times that we, I mean, of course, it's hard to even talk about all the stuff that's going on in the world right now, because it's just crazy. It's something that we couldn't imagine happening in 2020. But I will say that through all of this, we're super passionate, and we're still digging, and we're still invested. And it's amazing how well I feel like, we're kind of coming together throughout this whole thing. And it seems like, although we fight with each other about what's going on with the players, although I'd say, I don't know, maybe half of you don't agree with me on the popular opinions of Derek Carr, whatever that is, whatever I share. If it came down to another fan base, or somebody else coming after us during this time, or anything in the real world, we all have each other's backs, and it shows during these times. It really shows. And it's amazing. And it's just, that's why I have this, I dedicated one spot on my wall to just have this Raider Nation flag. And I like to sit here and I like to talk into it because it just represents us like perfect. I mean, we are literally a nation. And definitely I feel like, although we're split over opinions, we're pretty together on a lot of things, and we run pretty smooth, and we're probably, obviously the most famous fans in the world, the most reputable. So I'm going to leave Raider Nation with thank you for being awesome and inspiring me to be a better fan.
Right on, man. He is Raider Cody. We appreciate your time today. Check him out on the Raider Cody podcast. Man, appreciate your friendship. Appreciate you joining me here in Murf's Fan Cave, and we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, we'll see you at the home opener.
All right, brother.